Hey everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. Ronin's Slashlight is one of the most powerful skills in the game. You can use it everywhere. If you want to boost your Ronin's damage, then stay tuned as I go through the code so you can better understand the mechanics, get my recommendations, and also find out why Ronin is so busted. Also, you might find out some surprising interactions like how the Berserk Breath rune interacts with poison. First, thanks to ROMHandbook.com for all the formulas that will be discussed in this video. I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. The description for Slashlight says it deals physical attack plus magic attack times 1160% fire physical damage per second to enemies within range for 3 seconds. Enemies hit by Slashlight have a 100% chance to gain burn, increasing damage by 20% when HP Alight, and damage increases by 1% for every 10 VIT. This skill enjoys all Dragon Breath related bonuses. That's definitely a lot of things in one skill. Right off the bat, we can see there's a lot of damage multipliers there already, such as physical and magic attack put together, and also the VIT being able to scale up as well. Next, the formula for Slashlight is calc damage 16,003. One unfair thing is the highlighted code regarding the size correction. White Blaze King's Protection Wild Boar passive means you don't have to deal with size correction. Your sword will do full damage without the need for Precision Stones or the Drake Star card. Next, your base attack increases the most by your strength, then dex, and finally luck. Your base magic attack increases by your int. However, people often max VIT and then balance between strength and int. Now, you would think that strength would be a better one to invest in first. For example, in my character, my physical attack percentage is at 156.7%, and my magic attack is at 137.9%. So let's see what happens if I max strength first and then remaining into int, then switch to max int and then strength. My dummy is Dragon, Large, Undead, 80% strength, and MVP. I max strength and then remaining into int. The damage is 186.9 million. Next, I max int first, then strength after. My damage is 186.7 million, so slightly lower. This is highly character dependent and gear dependent, so please test it out. You might be able to squeeze out a bit more damage by changing your attributes a little bit. Now, if you need BCC to make your Ronin stronger, then try Smile.1. Smile.1 allows you to get discounted BCC and premiums for Ragnarok Mobile. You can see the discounted prices here, and then at the bottom, the wide variety of payment methods for lots of flexibility. Smile.1 has been around for more than 8 years and have lots of global business partners for other games too. Click the link in the description to begin saving today. Thanks to Smile.1 for sponsoring this video. Next, early on in the formula for attack and magic attack final, elemental damage increasing, race damage increasing, and boss damage increasing properties are calculated here. Things calculated after will have a higher damaging effect since more damage increasing factors are added to it later. This is in order of operations. Next, your Slashlight damage is affected by long-range damage reduction despite you being a melee character. This is the same for Novice Guardian, whose card Tornado is also affected by long-range damage reduction. Next, you'll see that VIT plays a big role later, so be sure to max this attribute first. Next, HP Alight is important because it gives you 20% more damage. HP Alight at level 10 gives you 30 seconds. Also, please be aware that your HP Alight disappears if your HP is below 10%. I would recommend you change your HP Alight to max to give you the most duration. Next, for this damage test, I purposely don't use Magnum Break due to the cooldown. I wait for the etch to stack up and I deal 216.3 million damage. Next, I cast Last Stand and I lose HP Alight. My damage falls to 180.3 million, a big dip. Normally I watch my health and try to use potions to keep it above 10% and only use Last Stand as a last resort if I know I will be one-shot soon. You need to keep this in mind since the HP Alight cooldown is quite long, so you can't recast it very quickly either. Next, Ronin can use Dragon Howl, but should you use it? With my plus 11 Black Flame Sword, I could do 216.3 million damage to the dummy. I will equip my plus 16 Dragon Howl. Here's some of its stats. So 197.2 million is the drop despite it being a plus 16 Dragon Howl. As you can see in the code, each refined level adds 2% damage to Light Slash and also doubles your damage, so it's hard to beat the sword. You also get 15% fire and holy damage, which contributes to being even stronger. Next is your Aesir Monument that increases Light Slash damage by 54%. There's 9 nodes of 6% each. Next is the Fire Elf card, which is an inexpensive armor card that adds 10% damage. It's quite good for its cost if you can afford a high-end MVP card. Next is the Berserk Breath Ruin damage. The code applies to the first line. In this example, my first line is 29.9%, and you definitely want to roll for a high first line here. The second line being high is nice to have, and I'll talk more about this code later. The third line is optional. Next is Deep Cut, which I think is pretty unfair since it stacks 5 times. It gets an extra 7% damage, which is quite insane. It also includes the Etched Mark Ruin, and you must aim for a high first line. The other 2 lines are optional. This definitely adds up since it can stack 5 times. Next, Flashing Force adds an extra 50% damage. This is a huge damage multiplier and also gives you quite a big advantage if dark converting. I normally use Homestead of Snowy Owl, but some people do use Duchess of Bat when dark converting for some extra damage. Again, this is character and target dependent, so try it out to see what works for your character since it depends on what your holy attack and fire attack is at. Next, this code shows a lot of the previous multipliers being used. They are added late in the formula, so they have a big impact. That includes the Vit ratio, which increases your damage based on your Vit. Next is the burn effect of the Berserk Breath Ruin. Regardless of whether the target is poisoned or not, the target will be burned. So your damage is calculated here. It's also superlated in the formula, so some people had thought this is final damage. It isn't final damage, but it's definitely very close. People had tested out that this works because they set their status vulnerability to 0 and then try out this ruin, and they can see that this actually does increase damage despite poison being the dominant one for the state damage effect. Next, let's talk about poison's interaction with burn. Here's my gear. I currently don't have anything that can poison the target. I hit the target who burns and then I hit for 16.1 million damage. This is due to status vulnerability adding 34% to your damage. Next I equip the poison tail, and then you can see I lose status vulnerability, so my second hit is now 14 million, a big drop from 16.1 million. This is why poison typically doesn't mix well with Ronin because they rely on burn, and poison overrides burn. But how does that work in the code? The do-calc state effect dam formula is used later in the overall damage. This is where poison takes priority and burn is lower on the list. I scroll down and see the section where if the first status effect contains poison, then it exits the function via the return statement, so the burn underneath are not used. As I keep scrolling near the bottom, I'll see the check for burn. This code will never be reached if poison is the first state detected. Even above burn, there's also other hard controls mentioned as well, but against bosses many of them have no control anyways, so you won't be able to inflict those, so burn will happen. The code provides a lot of insights into Ronin, and this class has a ton of damage modifiers to boost /light damage, which can give you lots of options to tweak your character. By understanding the mechanics in the code, you can better build your Ronin. After making this video, I have adjusted my Ronin to make it stronger and the damage is higher. So good luck increasing your damage with Ronin. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I would recommend, And if you want more Ronin guides, check out this playlist over here.